This is the best, this is the most complete rock record I've ever made. Even beyond the Brother Kane records, the Black Star Rider stuff. This is just, again, man, it's the record I wanted to make when I was 19 years old, and I've done it.
That's Damon Johnson. I'm Jamie Green, and this is Trading Fours. Hey everybody, welcome back to another edition of Trading Fours. Happy Super Bowl Sunday. Many of you know this, but the few that don't know this, I'm in Kansas City, and as you can imagine, people are crazy wild here again. The Chiefs are in the Super Bowl for the second straight year. My wife likes to bake whenever she gets nervous, so during the entire playoffs, I tend to put on even more weight, which is horrific, but it's hard to pass up on yummy treats. Hey, today's guest is the great Damon Johnson. I've been aware of Damon for a very long time. I was a big Brother Kane fan back in the day, back in the early 90s. Loved what he did with that, and he's done all kinds of stuff since then. Alice Cooper, then Lizzy, written songs with Sammy Hagar. You may have heard of that guy too. But Damon is just always busy, always up to something, always working, man. And he's got a new group. He's got a power trio. It's called Damon Johnson and the Get Ready. And they've got a new album coming out. This is the first track, Battle Lessons, which is also the name of the album. So really excited for this one. Damon's a really cool guy. He zoomed in with me from his house in Nashville. And we had a great talk about this new album and being creative. We also had a great talk, we're fairly close in age, about growing up in the era of all that great music that inspired him, whether it was AC/DC or Van Halen or whatever, and getting to make the album he always wanted to. So let's get started. Here's my conversation with Damon Johnson.
No, man, we can jump into it. I appreciate you having me on.
Oh, man, it's a total thrill for me. You can probably tell from behind, I play a little guitar, so I've been aware of you and your career for a long, long time. I won't say how long. We're both only 25 years old, right?
Listen, brother, I have earned every one of these gray hairs. I am proud of them. Yep. I wouldn't trade it for anything, man, because if you've been following my music as long as what you just said implies, I'm a little more on the ball now than I was back then. So it's all good.
No, it's great. So I think probably if I had to describe you in one word, Damon, it would be prolific. I think that's fair. I mean, from your earliest days and, Brother Kane and, then Lizzy and, Alice Cooper. And I know you did something with Sammy Hagar, and now you did solo stuff, and now you've got this new band. Like, man, you're a doer. And I mean that in the most positive way.
Thank you.
So let's talk a little bit about that. So I know the new album, I've listened to it, and I highly recommend when it comes out. I got a sneak peek. I really dug it. But I like to listen to music while I jog. Because I feel like I won't get interrupted, and I put my phone on do not disturb, and there's just something about your guitar playing and your singing, and it's a great. If anybody has to run a marathon soon, get some of Damon's stuff on your playlist. So I really dug it. So let's talk about the new album. Like, did you start it before COVID? When did it all come together?
Yeah, these songs were all written back in October and November of 2019, and I demoed everything up right here. And this is my little studio room, and had a meeting with my friend, my producer, Nick Raskulinix. And honestly, James, it wasn't until his over the top reaction to the songs that I got excited. I mean, look, man, any song that I finish writing clearly is entertaining to me. It's fun for me, to carry it across the finish line as far as a composition, but to then start playing it for my band or playing it for, people in my inner circle, man, Nick's reaction was over the top. So I knew we had some great songs. And so I was thrilled when he, agreed to get on board and produce this record. And I don't know how familiar you are, James, with Nick Raskulinecz, but
has he did something with the Foo Fighters? Where do I heard his name before? He's done something with somebody, right? Who was he been?
He's done a lot of stuff, man. Nick has won Grammys for Alice in Chains and Rush.
That's right, Alice in Chains, yeah.
Mastodon. I could go on and on and on. He's the real thing. So I can't overstate how fortunate I feel that, Nick would make some time on his calendar to take on my project like that. Project. Listen, man, I'm going to stop using that word project because this is not a project. This is my life now. I'm, for all the bands that you've been aware that I've been a part of, man, I'm grateful for every one of them. I'm not going back to any of those bands. When Scott Gorham calls and we get some Thin Lizzy dates, I'll go do those, man, because those are fun. And it'll be 6, 8, 10 shows at the most. Perfect. This is my focus, man. I'm like you now, James. I'm working out of my house. I run my own little business, and we're literally waiting on the CDs to arrive. And we've got a stack of envelopes over here with everybody's address that's pre-ordered it. So
yeah, I need to order one.
Yeah, man. I love that I'm doing this independent now and just, writing my own songs and telling my stories. And so, Battle Lessons, I guess, of course, we couldn't see into the future what 2020 was going to ultimately look like.
No.
But there's no question it's been a very fortuitous thing for me that I had this batch of songs and ready for the last year for sure.
Yeah. There's something also so great about, and I'm going to sound probably a little old, but that's okay. Real amplifiers, man. real musicians playing real stuff. A band, a great hook for an intro. You know what I'm saying? Just a great riff to start a song and to go into a song and kind of build that up before you even, I think the music now, so much of it, it's like the singer just jumps in right, in the first 2 seconds of the song. And I always enjoy that how you can build a song and kind of set the tone even before you open up your mouth and sing a little bit. I assume that's the same for you.
Well, I mean, I guess kind of putting it in simple terms, I'm just trying to create music that's a reflection of the stuff that I get excited about. I just like that kind of music. I won't say I don't listen to new music, man. I listened to over a dozen records last year that really spoke to me. None of them were rock records, man. They were all, singer-songwriter, Americana, some pop stuff that my kids had turned me on to.
Right.
So, Battle Lessons, James, is just turbocharged with the influences that I had as a kid in my teenage years, man. I hear absolute Van Halen references, AC/DC references, Aerosmith, Thin Lizzy. For guys like yourself and me that grew up listening to those bands and loving those bands, Battle Lessons is the 2021 record for that person, for that music fan.
Absolutely. It was such a great time too, right? That you would have this anticipation, waiting for an album to come out. There was all that mystery involved with it, right, Damon? It's not like now where I could Google you and know everything you're up to instantly. But I always love that, hey, what's the new album going to look like, even just physically looking at it? And I certainly heard a lot of that on the new tunes. And let's talk a little bit about your bandmates a little bit. I know that you got Jared Pope on drums and Robbie Harrington on bass, and those guys are obviously phenomenal too. So how'd you get them to say, hey, let's do this as a band?
Well, it's interesting. are worth noting, I guess. I met both of those guys around the same period of time, and it was like 13 years ago. Jared wound up being the drummer in, ironically, a modern country band, and that was a project, James, that I spent some time in, about a year and a half, and we tried to get that off the ground. But that's how Jared and I met. And then I saw Robbie at that same time. We did some festival dates, and Robbie was playing bass for country artist Dierks Bentley, who I'm sure you've heard of.
Oh, yeah.
And then prior to that, Robbie had been Keith Urban's bass player. Well, I was attracted to Robbie because his bass tone sounded like Geezer Butler, from Black Sabbath. And he was a snappy dresser. And I'm like, man, I got to talk to this guy. He's got a vibe. Well, man, it turns out that he had lived in Los Angeles, for a while. He had played with a lot of rock, specifically guitar players. He played with Steve Vai, played with Richie Kotzen. I think he did an Ozzy audition, just stuff like that. So he was clearly grateful to support his family playing country music, but dude, heart and soul, he was a rocker. Same with Jared. So then this happenstance, man, I moved my family here in 2013. Jared moved here the year after, and Robbie had already been here for quite some time. So, man, I was in Black Star Riders at that time, doing some Thin Lizzy stuff. But whenever I was in town, we'd have coffee, and I began to, in my mind, I was starting to see what I wanted my future to be, which is to get back behind the microphone, write my own songs, and do my own thing. Absolutely. And both of those guys said, "Hey, man, I'm in. Let me know when you're ready." So, that I made a little 5-song EP back in 2016, and Jared was available, and he's been with me ever since. And then Robbie's schedule changed a couple years ago, and I didn't hesitate to get him involved.
So you're in Nashville, correct?
Yeah.
It's such a
we're all here, by the way, James. I mean, that's a part of the Damon Johnson business model. If you're going to play in my band, you have to live here.
Right.
I am no more band rehearsals where everybody has to fly in from different states or different countries. It's not sustainable, brother.
No, it's not. That's funny. No. You're actually the third person I've had on from Nashville. So I had Tyson Leslie. I don't know if you've ever heard Tyson. He's Vixen's keyboard player. He's actually from here, Kansas City. And then
right on, man. Yeah, I've met Tyson. He's great.
Yeah. Good dude. Really good dude. And then John Salloway, he's kind of more of an Americana guy too. And then I actually am having one of my college buddy, Billy Decker, who's a big engineer, but he does mostly country. He's got a new thing coming out, and I'm having him on soon. So, Nashville just seems like it's such a nexus, right? And it's not, like you said, it's not just country, it's everything.
Yeah, man. I mean, my family and I moved here strictly for the lifestyle. Nashville is kind of halfway between my family down in Birmingham, Alabama, and then my wife's family lives in Detroit. And, I knew a lot of players, some management people. Nashville has infrastructure no matter what genre of music you're in. But James, I could have never anticipated that I would have this great of a band put together. I certainly never anticipated meeting Nick Raskulinecz, who I already had a bunch of records in my collection that he had produced that I was a fan of. So, none of this would be happening, man, if we hadn't moved here. So it's been amazing for my family and for my music.
So what do you like about Nick's production specifically? What draws you to it?
I love his emphasis on everything being rock. Nick, he's not interested in making country records at all. He almost gets offended by it, and so I'll show up, like the first thing we did together after Black Star Riders, because that's how we met. He produced the second Black Star Riders record, The Killer Instinct. And it was pure love for me after that. I'm like, man, this guy's incredible. Because, the drums are just they sound like real drums, James, kind of to your point earlier.
Yep.
But they sound contemporary. They sound modern. It's not he's not interested in sounding retro or let's create John Bonham's drums. There's other bands that do that, and they do that great, man. I want to make modern sounding, classically influenced rock music. So he does that, man. And he's passionate about every step of the process, pre-production, working out the arrangements. The drums have to go first. And just to watch him work with Jared, man, it's so much fun, man. Because he's as excited as we are. He brings that energy. And then, he pushes me vocally, pushes me lyrically. And then the cherry on top, man, is when we get all of that stuff covered, then we get into the guitars. And James, Nick has more badass guitars and guitar amps than anyone I've ever known.
Right.
So, I've been asked a lot of technical questions, during this interview season.
Right.
What guitars did you play and what amp? Like, man, I took my 2 favorite Les Pauls. I brought my old 100-watt Marshall. I brought one of my Wizard amps, which is a Canadian amp that I've played for 20 years. Everything else, man, I just played whatever Nick had. And he's got, Fenders and Bogners and Friedmans and High Watts and Orange. And it's just like, I was like a kid in a candy store, man. It's just, I hate to overuse that word fun, but that's what it is, man. It's just fun to make records with Nick. And more than anything I've done as a solo artist, this record reflects that tenfold.
That's great. No, I think, amplifiers, and my wife will probably roll her eyes when she listens to this, but that's okay. There's that joy of an, because I think we all, and you obviously, it's just a hobby for me. So I'm putting that out there. I'm not you anywhere close to you. But there's always, you get enticed by like, oh, I want to have these, these pedals and all this stuff. And then sometimes you'll unplug everything and just stick your, right, the 1/4 inch right into the amp. And you're like, holy shit, this sounds great. Right.
Yeah. No, brother, I have enjoyed that very concept since I was a kid, and I've never lost it. And again, Nick loves that too. And, he's not afraid to, pull out his box of effects and just start plugging stuff in. It's not like we go, oh, we have this vision for a sound. We just plug in and start turning all the knobs. Like, well, let's see what happens. Like, oh, that's cool. Yeah. All right. Press record. Let's add a part, using the sound. He's super musical about everything, but he's not precious about anything either. Like there was a little guitar part I recorded right here. This is my little cubby hole, James. Right. This is where I write and make my demos and all of that. But some pedals combination, I had come up with this weird sound that I used on one of my demos, and we couldn't recreate it at Nick's. So I just took the file off my laptop and we flew it straight into the session, and it's on the record. Like he's not precious about that kind of stuff. He's like, whatever's going to give it the right vibe and make everything sound badass. That's all he's committed to.
Well, there's probably something to be said growing up in the era that we did, and probably when you first recording studio time was Damon, late 80s, probably, when it was
a little bit in the late 80s. It didn't start happening.
Where it was probably 32 tracks on actual tape, right? I think having all that experience where, hey, you really got to be able to play, right? You've got to be able to put a good tone together. You've got to be able to put a good, obviously you could punch in and punch out, but so much more of that. Now everybody's got, they're so up into Pro Tools where they're letting Pro Tools decide where the actual, and this is just my take, where the music itself seems secondary. It's more about let's finesse all the other thing. And I don't like that. I like the more, just that feeling of an actual amplifier. I want to hear a little buzz of the amplifier on the tune even, you know what I'm saying? Right?
Yeah, man. Well, I had no way of seeing into the future and what my career path was going to be, but it certainly turned out to be fortuitous that I had grown up in the clubs and in the bars, playing in a lot of bands with older musicians, and they were very like they could recognize that I could play and that I had chops, but man, I needed growth with my tone, with my, playing in the pocket, and just being prepared. I learned so much about arrangements. I learned to become a good band leader just by proxy from being around these guys. And I mean, listen, man, of all those cats that I played with when I was a kid, I mean, I guess I was the only one that made it out of the weekend warrior stuff. And they still do that, but they all have regular jobs. And, but I've thanked every single one of them to a musician. I've said, hey man, thank you for that time we spent together, because it's helped me in ways I could have never anticipated. So, when Pro Tools did come around, I embraced that as well. I wanted to learn the technology, because let's be honest, man, it simplifies a lot of stuff. You don't have to, not recording to tape, man. It's, oh my God, James, I had an experience a few years back where somebody said, yeah, man, we're going to make this record on tape. And brother, that lasted about 4 hours. And everybody, screw this, man. This is too much work. So, so I embrace learning a new platform, but to have that foundation underneath, man, it was a blessing for me.
Absolutely.
And, because I don't know how the guitar stuff happens sometimes. People go, man, tell me, how did you come up with that solo? It's like, I don't know. We laid down the drums and I had a rhythm bed, and Nick said, okay, man, let's use this amp and this guitar, go. And I just played whatever came out. And 9 out of 10 times it was the first or second take that we go, oh yeah, that was it. Yeah, that only happens because of experience and repetition. And, it's just become an extension of what I do. So I guess I feel like it's an afterthought in a great way, the guitar parts, because I'm way more focused on writing a great song, arranging a great song, and working it out with the band.
Yeah. Well, real quick, I'm real curious. So what's it about Alabama, man, where like they're just, I can think of you and Eric Dover, two guys that grew up in Alabama who are great guitarists and also can sing their asses off, man. How does that happen? Is there something in the water? I mean, is it just because there were so many clubs to play in? I mean, and you guys have both done well.
It's a little bit of all that. I love Eric Dover, and Eric and I came from the same scene. But let me assure you, James, there's dozens and hundreds of other equally or more talented guitar players, talented singers. Eric and I were fortunate, man, that we had some opportunities cross our path that allowed us to kind of try something new, move to a different place, join some other bands and play with some other established people. But there's no question, man, Alabama is an incredible breeding ground for musical talent. There's so many genres that you get exposed to. It's not just one thing. It's a melting pot of everything. And, we definitely grew up in a time that was special because there were tons of places to play. There was more of a, hey, come see my band and sit in and jam with us mentality. I don't know how much of that happens anymore.
I don't think it happens hardly at all.
For young players. And it's just, you can't put a price on how valuable that was for guys like Eric and myself.
Yeah, it's funny. Actually, I've had a couple of the guys in Licorice Quartet on the podcast, Roger Manning and Tim Smith. And so I'm hoping when the 3rd EP out, I hope I get Eric on, because he's just another dude that I've always followed and really liked his stuff. So that's when Eric
is indeed from Alabama, James, but he is not of this earth. He's got some other, he's been touched by some wizard. I mean, he's got some other skill set that I just don't know anyone else like him. Again, man, I've worked with a lot of talent, people with lots of talent. I can't name 2 or 3 other people that have the skills that Eric does. He's so gifted in so many ways.
Yeah. Well, I'd say you too, but That's good. So let's talk about the future. I think everybody's sitting there in the holding pattern. I had Chris McClernand on, recently, and he's like, "Hey, the second we get the okay, we're out the door." Is that what you want to do? Do you want? I mean, what's your plan when you get the okay, the all clear? What's 2021? What do you want it to look like?
I think we all are in the same boat, man. We all want the same thing. We want this pandemic to go away. I just don't see it happening for a long time. I'm not saying that from anything except a realism platform. I'm not being dramatic. I'm not being negative. The reality of this thing is it's more rampant right now than it's been at any point. And certainly here in the US, we've managed it horribly. And it's just made things much more difficult. It's going to take much longer for us to get back to some level of normal. I think we're going to be wearing masks for years to come, man. I think our lives are changed for years and years and years. I do think we can manage this thing. I'm thrilled about the vaccines, and I think that's going to definitely help us get back to congregating and performing music soon. But I do believe that in 2021, there could be some activity where bands are playing outdoors, maybe some festivals. It's going to require some organization. It's going to require some health regulations and stipulations that I don't know of any musicians that are going to fight against that. They're going to let, hey man, whatever we got to do, let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's get out and play some live music again.
It almost reminds me of 9/11 and the fact like there's the life before 9/11, right? And then there's life after like once 9/11 happened, nothing has been the same, right? We just expect we're taking our shoes off, right? All those things that have changed forever. And I think you're right. In a way, this is the same. There's going to be things that have changed forever. And I also think, and you can speak to this a lot more profoundly than I can. Having music be the thing that's being missed, one of the biggest, because I'm here in Kansas City. They played the AFC Championship game last night, right? So those kind of things are still there. But the musicians and the people who write, plays and that stuff, that's like, we need that more than ever. That sense of community, that sense of creativity, that sense of just being able to go and watch somebody in a room and experience that firsthand. And I think I think people are just aching for it, right?
Well, I certainly am. You certainly are. We're going to be able to see how, to what degree people want to return to that. The fascinating thing about 2020 is that everyone has gone without lots of things. So as we slowly begin to move forward back in the direction of what we did, listen, man, there's going to be some people that go, hey, I saved about $3,000 last year by not going to concerts, by not buying tickets, by not paying for parking, by not traveling and buying hotels and all that stuff. Some people will go back to that, but some won't. Some won't. Some won't be in a financial position to do that. Everybody's been really hit, in their, just in their day-to-day lives, man. And we don't know to what degree that has happened. So I wish I could see into the future, James. Yeah. I wish you could see into the future so you could tell me what's going to happen.
Well, I think go ahead.
I was going to say, man, all I can control is the music that I'm making. And, I'm putting this album out. It's a big drag that we can't go out and play shows and promote this thing properly because, when this 3-4 weeks of doing promo, social media, I'm going to try and make another video for another track. Once that's all done, man, it's just going to be a big pause.
Right.
And all of this work that the guys and I have put into making this record over the last 10 months is going to come to a screeching halt. Yeah, some people will visit my website and they'll order the vinyl or the CD and I'll I'll go in the storage room over here and get a box and an envelope and seal it up and send it to them. But man, we're accustomed to putting all that merch in the back of the trailer and loading up the half stacks and the drums and let's go play and then do the gig and then go over to the merch table and meet the fans, and they're buying shirts and catalog music, and I'm going to miss that, man. I hope we can return to that really soon.
Amen to that. Well, and then last sad question, and then we'll wrap up with some happy thoughts, I promise.
Yeah.
2020 it's such a, and I know it's over now, but not only there's almost like that sense of loss of you're almost grieving over, live music and all this stuff, but we lost so many great musicians in 2020 too, right? And I think, so I was born in 68, Damon, and you 64? Like we're pretty close in age.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, the fact that we lost, Neil Peart at the beginning of the year and then Eddie Van Halen at the end of the year. I mean, those two alone, and there was a lot more than that. It just feels like, as a Gen Xer, like this whole era is coming to a closer. Maybe it's done. Right. So I think that's hard too. And I know that you opened for Van Halen, and I know you're a big Rush fan because I saw you put the 2112, coffee mug on your Instagram stuff. So, some of my happiest childhood teenage memories are sitting in, the Omaha Auditorium watching Van Halen and Rush. So happy I saw Rush at, the last time on the last tour, not knowing it was the last time ever, but kind of feeling it was.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of it too, right? I mean, not only are you a musician, but you're a music fan, and that's part of the things that's being lost. So.
Well, yeah. I mean, look, man, you covered a lot of stuff right there. Again, some of the wisdom that comes with getting older is the acceptance that we're all going to go, brother. And guys, I'm on the back side of this thing, and I can see the road ahead reaching its destination. So, I just want to try and be as creative and, embrace the opportunity I've been given to be a musician full time. I'm very lucky to have a family that supports that. There's never been one moment that my wife or my kids have been like, Dad, maybe you should do something else, and maybe I will, maybe things don't get back to normal as soon as we are hoping or even counting on. And then maybe we all have to do something else. That's cool too. We can do that. But there's nothing else that I want to do that fulfills me spiritually, creatively. And, every good thing that's happened in my life came because of music. So we celebrate these people that we lost. We celebrate their lives and, all the things that they contributed. There's no question, man, to lose Neil and to lose Eddie in the same year. It's the biggest blow our generation has ever had, because you're talking two icons. You're talking two Mount Rushmore level influences, game changers. So yeah. And I just, I'm so grateful for that time that I did get to spend with Eddie when we opened for them. And I saw him a few other times over the years, and he was just always amazing. The thing I love the most about Edward is every time you would see him, he would walk up and kiss you on the face. He would literally just take your head and give you a kiss on the cheek. And he was just extraordinary and really special. And the guy changed my life, James. I was into lots of bands and I was learning to play the guitar. But man, when Van Halen dropped, everything changed. Everything changed.
I think a guitar player knows exactly where they were when they heard Van Halen 1.
Oh, totally, man. And, there was something inside that music that, for me, rock music just it became the umbrella that I lived under. I still enjoyed sports and, activities and doing things with my friends or whatever. But my total obsession was music, guitar playing, practicing, backing up that needle on Van Halen 2 and trying to learn that guitar riff and Light Up the Sky. I still can't play it right.
Me either, man. If it makes you feel better. How cool is that to be that little kid, a little teenage kid, little shit in Alabama, and then someday you got to be on stage with, what a cool thing. Only in America, right?
It's the stuff of it should be a film, man. I mean, it's like a dream. It's like a dream. I came from the most rural of surroundings, James, tiny town out in the middle of nowhere. And, it wasn't really even until I went to junior college and I was starting to play in a house band. I was a guitar player. It wasn't until I moved to Birmingham in 1987 that it ever crossed my mind that, oh, maybe there's a way I could make a living playing guitar. Still wasn't thinking like, oh, I'm going to get a record deal. I'm going to go on tour. I'm going to get to open for Aerosmith and Robert Plant.
Right.
No, that can't happen. That's not possible. Not for, I'm from a chicken farm in Alabama, James. That's just not going to happen. Well, guess what, brother? It happened.
Yep.
And it was all because of that love of music and a relentless, tenacious energy to play music, create music, make music with my friends, and just see what we could do, see what we can make happen.
Right. Well, I appreciate the time. Let's talk a little bit. I know you touched on a little bit, and I have my parents' 1959 stereo cabinet that I had refurbished, where I have all my dad's album. My dad was a jazz trumpeter, so I have all his stuff, and then I have I never threw out one album, which is amazing. A lot of my friends, wish that they could say the same. So let's sell you some.
Too.
Yeah.
Me too. I got rid of a lot of stuff, dude.
Yeah, that's too bad. So let's sell some, merch over the internet anyway, Damon. So tell people about this new album, all the ways that they can get it.
Well, the record's going to be out February 19th. Your one-stop location, man, is simply damonjohnson.com. I have done a lot of work on that website over the past decade or so, James, and it just makes it easy for people to get anything they're interested in. My entire back catalog is there. But Battle Lessons will be there. Yes, we're trying to get it on Amazon. That's a whole other challenge. It's like,
I want to know.
That's the part of being an independent musician, man. That is work. That is pushing the pencil and, punching the clock. So, but that's all right, man. I've learned a lot about that too. So, look, you just want to make it easy for people to find your music. So, this is the best. This is the most complete rock record I've ever made, even beyond the Brother Kane records, the Black Star Rider stuff. This is just, again, man, it's the record I wanted to make when I was 19 years old, and I've done it.
Yeah.
So I just think any fan of rock music, hard rock music, guitar-driven rock, they're going to find a lot of stuff on this record that they'll dig. So, yeah, man. DamonJohnson.com. And of course, the record's going to be on all the streaming platforms. I'm a fan of streaming. I'm not going to talk down about that, man. There's a lot of guys our age, James, they're still pouting and they want to snivel about it. It's like, hey, bro, this is called the future.
Yeah.
Things change all the time.
You can't, it's like trying to hold back the ocean, right?
Totally. Great analogy. Great analogy, man. Hey, it's like my dad. My dad described it so great. You'll like this, James. He goes, Damon, used to be people would get whale blubber to be able to, burn stoves and, and that was big business. And then some dude created kerosene and the whale blubber guys are out of business, know?
Blockbuster to Netflix. Blockbuster was everywhere. Right.
Totally. There's so many examples since then. Man.
No, it's just, that's why I kind of, especially, and then I don't want to rag on too many, but I mean, I always kind of like shake my head with like Don Henley. It's like, God damn, Don, you made a shit ton of money. I don't understand why you're so, I feel bad for the guys that didn't make any money that got screwed. Right. I mean,
anyway. The cool thing about a situation, Don's one of many people that, I'm grateful that they've at least taken a stand and brought attention to the value of copyright holders, the creators, the songwriters, the producers. Because things can adapt, things need to change, things need to move forward. But you can't just take advantage of those creators, man. You know, that if there's a way for that music to maintain its value, you know, it needs to be that way. And look, we're still on the front end of all this digital streaming, internet music thing. So there's a lot of battles left to be won, and they will be won, man. And things will just continue to adapt. And I'm going to do the best I can, man, to stay in the game.
No, I appreciate that. And I think that's why I wanted you to give your website, because I always try to support the artist directly, because then you get it all, right? I mean, that's the way that's the most helpful. Like you said, you could figure out Amazon and get that stuff, like that's fine and stuff. But the way to really help an artist is either when their shows in person, buy something off their merch table, or if you can get it directly from their website, get rid of the middleman, help people out.
Here, I'll tell you this, and I'm glad that you said that, James. Again, it's the other thrilling thing for me is that, you know, I'm the artist and the songwriter and all that, but I'm also the owner operator of Double Dragon Records. So wherever you can get it, by all means get it, because it's going to come, you know, that check is not going to Interscope Records or, you know, Sony Music. It's going to Double Dragon Records, Nashville, Tennessee, which is the mailbox out in front of my house.
That's great.
So I'm grateful, man, for any music of mine that people want to get their hands on.
All right. I'm going to order it, man. I'm going to order it on vinyl. So when you see James Green, Kansas City, James, I want you to sign it for me, brother.
I'll put your name over here on the dry erase board. You see that? That's There's all kind of notes over there, like, oh, so and so's address changed, and so and so, this is their request for this vinyl personalized or whatever. So it's all good.
So last question: do you have any good Kansas City memories? I mean, I know you've come through town a million times in different iterations, different bands and stuff. Do you have any memories specifically of Kansas City? You might not. I know.
Yeah, you know what, man? My biggest memory is a very, very special one. And I was reminded of it yesterday watching the football game. The country band that I told you I was a part of in 2007 and 2008, that band was called Whiskey Falls. And it was a great, like, vocal 4-part harmony, but kind of Southern rock underneath, man. It was a good fit for me. But we did a crushing rendition of the national anthem. I mean, I'm talking about, I would put our version up there next to anyone you want to name, you know, and somehow it worked out. We got to sing the anthem at the opening game for the 2008 Kansas City Chiefs football season. And I'll never forget, James, walking out to the middle of that football field. The entire stadium is packed. The entire stadium is red.
Yeah.
And I'm having a brain lapse on your head football coach at that moment. He's at Arizona State right now.
Herm Edwards.
Herm Edwards.
Yep.
So we go out there, man. We sing the national anthem. Everybody's standing up. You know, the flag is flying down at the end up on the big screen. And we get to that very last line, you know, in the home of the brave. The 4 fighter jets fly over the stadium. The fireworks kick off. And it all ends. The place is going crazy. We're getting off the field because they're about to bring the teams out for the kickoff. Herm Edwards makes a beeline straight out to us. And for some reason, he comes straight up to me and we high five each other. And he goes, "That's the most badass thing I've ever heard in my life."
How cool is that?
How can you have a greater memory of Kansas City than that? I love it.
Well, we're gonna get you back here, man. And when we do, I will be there. I love the album. It comes out with the exact date on it. It's what? February what?
19th. Friday, February the 19th.
So after February everybody 19th. In Kansas City gets over their hangover of the Super Bowl, you know, sobers up, look for Damon's album. It's so much fun to talk to you, Damon. I really appreciate the time.
Thanks, brother. Listen, man, thank you so much for having me on. And I appreciate you asking about the website. Man, there's an awesome new video for the title track, Battle Lessons. That's on YouTube. Please go watch that, man. That thing turned out great. There's a second track up right now on all the streaming sites. Track number 2 is called Can't Clap Any Louder. Another rocker. People can hear that right now, man. Go to Spotify, Apple Music. Yep. Damon Johnson and the Get Ready.
Let's do that. And I'll put all those links on the show notes. And honest to God, whenever you come in Kansas City, I'll come out and say hello. And it's a total joy. I really dug the new album. I've loved my career the whole time. I'm a riff guy. You always are a riff guy. And so I loved it all. So it's a total joy. Thanks so much, man.
James, thank you, brother. All the best to you and your family. You guys stay healthy, and I'll see you soon. Go Chiefs.
That's right.
I see your leg deep in blasphemy. Oh, are you whole and not pure? And if I tell you you're pretty, well, they won't shake.
Damon Johnson, everybody. Great chat, great guy. Really had so much fun with him, and we got pretty deep there, man. It's true. It's the end of an era. I think about all the great musicians that we have lost and continue to lose, and man, time's short. Make the most of it. When we do get the all clear, go out and see bands like Damon Johnson and the Get Ready. There's nothing that can ever replace seeing great live music in person. There isn't. So check him out. And I have up on the show notes, I have his website. I have the YouTube clip that for these videos that he was talking about. And actually, I found the clip of him performing at the National Anthem at Arrowhead Stadium. And that's there too, so check that out. So thanks so much to Damon. Really enjoyed it. Really dig the album. And it was a lot of fun. So that's it for this episode of Trading Fours. Hey, next time, we're going back to a Kansas City group. I've got 2 of the members of Beyond the Gray. They've got a new EP out. And they're going to come on. I think we're going to even try to do it live. And one of them is one of my old buddies, Scott Cameron, who I've actually done some music with before. So we're looking forward to that. It'd be good to catch up with Scott and everybody else in Beyond the Gray. So that's it for today. Go out and support live music, either in person or virtually. And we'll talk real soon.